Lyric. How many minutes is the one in Ikeja Jari?
Ikeja Jari, I mean, there are two.
Oh, there is no two. I've been to one. I paid you rent in that place. While you were sleeping. I went to do retreat in your shop, then you collected the money.
We've collected it in December by itself.
So the question I'm going to ask you directly is this: why real estate?
I think real estate, I think, since the beginning of time is the most tangible form of investment you can make. Anyway, you
When you're a tech bro, how did you come there?
So interestingly, we went into real estate from a point of leverage, right? I wasn't very big about real estate. I have a partner, Onye.
Oh yeah,
She's very big on real estate. The way I got convinced, and this is also part of the language of financial whatever, when we started acquiring properties, one of the ways they knew to convince me is, okay, if we buy this place for 100, then what's the opportunity cost? I always like to look at opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Okay, so how much are we going to get from rent? You're telling me that this property is 100 million naira. They're going to be paying us maybe 10 million naira a year as rent, right? That is one option. But you're saying, okay, there's capital acquisition. The value is increasing every year. So we put that one aside. If we do short lets, what is the return on it, right? And the other part of real estate that I really like is the fact that you can use that as a collateral to unlock more funds, right? That is the biggest, I think that's the biggest thing that rich people have done that a lot of people that are not rich don't do. So I mentioned about having a mental advisory board, right? Dangote is on my mental advisory board.
You are not from the same state.
I'm not from the same state. You know one thing he has done very well? This whole refinery, almost everything was debt, right? Nobody can give you debt in that amount if you don't have some sort of collateral, right? You have to have some sort of collateral, and the easiest collateral you can have is real estate, right? So even if you hate, even if you don't like real estate, you're not very big into it like myself, even if now we've had to acquire, quite a number of properties. I love the leverage part of it, and I also learned a lot from, two movies. Anytime I'm reading a book, I'm watching a movie, I always like to look for the business side of the story. I'm a student of business. There's this movie called The Founder, right? He asked him, by the way, that's a movie about McDonald's, but they asked him, what business are you into? He said real estate. He said why? Because acquiring the properties on where all those McDonald's was give them leverage, right? That is one person. The other one that actually made me laugh is who has seen The Banker? Anybody seen this movie called The Banker? They're trying to get a loan from a bank, trying to do a business with a bank, and the bank didn't want to answer them. You know what they did? They bought the building that the bank was in. So they became the banker's landlords, right? They became the banker's landlords, and just as Wiseman has said, as much as personally, so me, I try not to be sentimental about business. We just look at hard figures, and luckily I'm a numbers guy. So I think, okay, today, personally, I'm not in love with real estate from a passionate perspective, but the numbers make sense.
You fell in love with the numbers.
I fell in love with the numbers. I fell in love with the leverage because I'm in financial business, and I do business with banks a lot, right? So we do business with banks a lot, and a lot of time it has always come over. And like the lovely part of it is that there's usually two streams of income from any real estate, at least two. There's the one you get annually if you are doing. So if you own a plaza, or even if anything you own, right, you're going to be getting either rental income or you're getting rental income, or if you are running a short let. So you're making money as you sleep, right, from it. But it's also appreciating. So at the end of the day, when you're looking at your investments in a 5-year time frame, you need to factor those two things in. It's not just the money you've collected. So we always think about money in terms of cash, especially if you're holding naira, cash devalues, right? So even if you own, let me give you a very good example with numbers. If you buy a property today for 100 million and you're taking rent 10 million naira annually, you've made your money back in 10 years, I mean. So somebody will argue with you that, oh, payback period is 10 years, it doesn't make sense, real estate, blah, 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 blah. But you have to look at the return from the rent, and you have to add this to how much the property is worth today. That is the full return, right, of the property. And when you think about it like that, you know that it's a good investment. So I think it's the most tangible, it's enduring, and in this market that we're in, hopefully nothing changes anytime soon. It's always appreciated. And I gave that caveat because we've seen real estate bubbles in much more developed economies. The housing deficit in Nigeria is still
Too high for the bubble.
the supply demand gap is still very different. So rental income, appreciation, and then very important, leverage. This is one of those things that I want you to go and listen to. It sounds very high level now, we're just talking, but if you think about it from those three perspectives, just think about what you can potentially do. If you have a building sitting there that is 50 million naira, with that same building that is still your own, you're able to get 50 million out of the bank. So now you're sitting on at least 100 million worth of assets just because you have property. So that's a very good way to think about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Should not be